Congress continues to try to raise the debt ceiling. They can't stop. They literally spend so much money, they spend like a drunken sailor. They cannot stop spending money. Every time they go to spend more and more money, they eventually come up against the debt ceiling. Back in October, we had this same problem. You had a bunch of people saying the US government is going to go bankrupt. We can't default on our debt. This is the doomsday scenario. We must lift the debt ceiling. And of course, as always, if you're watching this show, we told you, don't worry about it. The US government is not going to default. This is all a charade. It's all a game. And of course, at the 11th hour, what did they do? They went ahead and they made the change. And when they made that change, they increased the debt ceiling by $480 billion. But because they only did $480 billion, that means that we went from October, doomsday scenario, to today, in December, them again, doomsday scenario. We're going to run out of money. We're going to default. Oh no, there's bad stuff in December. How the hell is it that the government constantly gets to the point where they think they're going to run out of money every couple of months? This is absurd. It's because we have undisciplined monetary and fiscal policy. We have an entire political regime that believes spending other people's money is their job. And so ultimately what we're facing now is an increase of up to $2 trillion. We just did $480 billion. Now they're talking about a $2 trillion increase to the debt ceiling. The way that this is going to work is that the House just passed a procedural bill earlier this week. That bill now proceeds to the Senate. At least 10 Republicans will have to join the Democrats, and all of the Democrats will have to vote along with those 10 Republicans to move this procedure forward. From there, the Senate will then vote to raise the debt ceiling with passage obtainable by a simple majority vote. And the Senate is expected to vote on the bill today. Both chambers of Congress would then vote on the terms of the debt limit itself. The more that we go forward, the more we're going to see nonsense like this. What would be a wild idea is rather than continue to increase the debt ceiling, why don't we start with spending less money than we make? That would be a crazy idea. The US government, since 2011, every single year has taken in more federal tax income. 2012 was more than 2011. 2013 was more than 2012, all the way up until 2021. The government's getting more revenue, but at the same time, they're making more money. The government is also spending at a greater deficit every single year, which means that the deficit, they spent more than what they actually made in 2011. But in 2012, the gap was bigger. 2013, it was bigger than that, all the way up until now. So no matter how much money the federal government takes in, they continue to spend even more of it. It is like a business that says, hey, I made X dollars to start and I lost money last year. This year I made more money, but I lost even more dollars. And that is why we continue to push up against this debt ceiling. We need reasonable people. We need rational people. We need people who understand a budget, because ultimately you cannot do this forever. You cannot continue to spend more than you make. So this government and this economy does not have an income problem. They take plenty of money and they continue to increase the tax burden on Americans, but they continue to spend at an even greater pace. And so we have a spending problem, not an income problem. $2 trillion increase to the debt limit, comical at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Janet Yellen is screaming that everyone needs to pay their bills, the U.S. needs to pay their bills, and then we just go raise the debt limit to go pay those bills. So, like, I don't understand how that really works.
It's supposed to cost $0. Remember the program is going to cost $0?
Yeah. They, like many other people have said, they got you concentrated on the actual cost of the program to dive away from the idea that we should do it at all.
Of course. This is all nonsense. John, what do you think?
Printing more money is terrible for the inflation that's already been persistent with 6.2% CPI. I think the new CPI numbers come out on Friday, so we'll see where that lands. But look, defaulting on our debt obligations is probably worse, right, than just raising the inflation rate. So I have a feeling this bill will probably get passed. They really need to stop spending money.
The other piece of this that I think people forget about is like whether they actually create new money, they borrow money, whatever it is, right? They're continuously just spending and spending and spending. And I think that there's two situations that are absolutely absurd in society right now. The first is this idea that if we spend more money, we'll actually decrease inflation. Absurd. Literally the most absurd thing ever. The second thing is that they have people convinced that the government is actually going to default. right? Like they literally are yelling and screaming, saying that the government's going to default. And it's just, you get to this point of like, look, everyone just calm down. We understand you guys are going to continue to do this. Why increase it by $2 trillion? Let's just go ahead and increase it by $20 trillion. Let's just leap ahead so we don't have to do this every 3 months. Because if you look at this, in October, $480 billion. If they were to do $2 trillion now, what's that get us? Maybe the whole year next year?
No,
Maybe.
it gets us to like February.
Yeah, it depends, right? Depends on what they're spending on. And so you just get in this world where you're just like, look, this stuff is all nonsense. And you can easily see how people get caught up in like all of the minutia about it. But if you go to Washington, D.C. and you walk around there, these people literally think that they're important, right? They literally think that this stuff is like the end of the world. And the rest of America is sitting there saying like, you guys are fools.
It's also 7 days before we supposedly default on our obligations, right? So why push it when if we did the basically extension from October to now? Why is it till now that's just getting to the House and to the Senate?
Well, because actually we're not going to make the decision today, 7 days. We're going to wait till midnight the night before. Like it's like remember when we were all in high school and they're like, yo, your homework's due on Tuesday, and you're like, cool. I'll do it Monday night.
I'll do it
and then
Tuesday
Monday
morning.
night comes, you're like, I'll do it tomorrow morning, and then you get to the hallway and you're like, oh shit, and you pull out the worksheet and you're like doing it on like a locker real quick. Like that's the U.S. government.
The funniest one to me is the filibuster. I love when they do the filibuster. All sides of the aisle. I'm like, yo, y'all are really going to stand up there for 12 hours and talk? Like
Legends.
Yeah, I mean, it's legendary, but come on. Like, there's got to be a
What's the
better way to do
longest
this.
filibuster anyone's ever done? We should try to figure it out. Should we do a filibuster ourselves and see if we could out filibuster a filibuster?
Let's see.
And see if if it's 12 hours, I mean, we could easily sit here and just talk or read things for 13 hours. Like, that wouldn't be hard.
24 hours.
24 hours? No way. 24-hour filibuster is pretty crazy. Do you get to go to?
no,
you get
wait.
delusional by the end of
Do you
that.
get to go to the
Wait,
bathroom?
Democrats. Wait, is this true?
There might be multiple people who can also participate in the filibuster. It may not be a one person thing. Like you may be able to pass the baton. You know, kind of like a little
there's
relay
definitely
race.
you could pass the baton because they're saying, okay, all right. So it looks like there's
baton.
Yeah, you got to get a little relay race. You know, all
right,
I'm
so-
coming up. Go.
So there's two. It looks like the longest filibuster was U.S. Senator Strom Thurmond from South Carolina, spoke for 24 hours and 18 minutes.
Straight, like one person.
Yeah,
Legend.
which is legendary.
Rand Paul, people are saying he did 24 hours.
There's a
too.
bunch of other ones. There was a couple people who did 22 hours, 18, 16. But then there's a claim here. It's one of those fact-checking websites. I don't know if it's true.
Yeah.
But
So we got
to
to fact check the fact checkers.
Yeah, we got to fact check the fact checkers. But they're saying Democrats held the Senate filibuster to prevent the passing of the 1964 Civil Rights Act for 75 days straight.
Yeah, so people are saying that is the longest one ever.
That's the longest one.
But the filibuster, obviously there's some.
But that's multiple
baton
people.
passing.
Yeah. That's multiple people.
So wait, the Democrats tried to block the Civil Rights Act?
Let me see.
I ain't going down that rabbit hole, but y'all can take from that whatever you want. That sounds like a piece of history that might have gotten looked over. All right. When we think about the filibuster, by the way, if you were to do a filibuster, would you go off the cuff and just talk? Or would you read something? Like, would you go in and be like, I'm going to read the dictionary?
If you're, what are you going in with a mindset like I got a 24-hour filibuster coming up?
Oh,
I feel like
yeah.
just-
No. They're literally,
That's
John,
exactly
they walk
what
in
they're
and they're
doing.
like, yo, I'm going to go for as long as I can. Like, you're going to carry me out on a
It's
stretcher.
just ignorant at that point.
I mean, that's the point. That's why it's like, this is so dumb. Y'all are just going to go up there and waste my time.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are going to do this for 24, 48 hours, 72 hours, and then you're going to vote anyway.
It's funny because
Yeah.
we're transitioning into a world where it's basically like, tell me as much as possible in as short as time as possible.
Has a filibuster ever worked in the sense that they were able to like push it over until something
I'm sure it's worked. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it, I guess, right?
or is it just a political grandstanding where like it's kind of like right now?
I mean, I'm sure it's more that than the other, but
I'll call it right now. Right now, there's I think 6 or 7 different crypto executives that are all testifying right in front of politicians. I promise you, 25 to 50% of the questions have nothing to do with actually trying to solve problems or get educated. It's all, let me get the clip so I can go viral on the internet and tell everyone that I'm a great politician.
that's exactly what it is. Yeah,
Like
they're
when they brought,
I got 5 minutes. Let's
remember,
go.
Yeah, remember when they brought Mark Zuckerberg in and the lady was like, "Oh, what about your haircut?"
No,
Like,
yeah, that one, and then what the other guy asked, he said, "What about Finsta accounts?" What did he say?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he
can
said-
you please
he
shut
s-
down
He said,
Finsta?
are you going to abolish Finsta?
He's like, "I don't think you know what that is, but
She was like, "Sir, there are those are fake Instagram accounts,"
Yeah.
and he's like, "Well, shut it off."
he's like, all right, my time here is
That's
done."
when people realize politicians didn't really understand the internet.